All right, good evening, everybody. The joint DPW Subcommittee and Town Council meeting of Monday, September 18, 2023, 6 p.m. here in the Veterans Room. Agenda item number 1, roll call. Councilor Shenier.
Here.
Councilor Daniel.
Here.
Citizen Member Lazo. And Cody.
Nope.
Okay. And Councilor Adams. We have a quorum. I'm sure there'll be more than that. Okay. Oh, we're 2 seconds, about a minute early, sorry. All right, yeah, Warren. All right, number 3, consider and accept Department of Public Works Subcommittee minutes of August 16th. I have not done them, but I'll get them done. Postpone those. Number 4, I mean, I know this is a subcommittee, but we already kind of discussed. We'll make a motion.
Make a motion to move.
He's 10, 11, 12.
Yes, 10, 11, and 12 to ahead. To allow Ms. Steen to be here.
Second.
All those in favor? Christine, you want to start off with number 10?
May I allow Greg Russell to present the agenda item, if that's okay?
Sure.
Great.
Oh, that's Mr. Town Manager. No, you know, forgive me for a minute. We haven't had a town manager in here for a long time, so it's really throwing me for a loop. Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything? Sorry about that.
Well, no, I just asked, because of the way the sound goes, that we have them come to the table like
Sure.
they should,
Just
so that
gonna
they
ask
can
that.
hear him and present it, so that people can see him on TV and hear him.
That's the quote, and that's the bid sheet for the HVAC, so.
Yeah,
that's
I
updated.
had made copies for you already.
Okay. Sorry. I apologize.
If the town will recall, we brought this agenda item forward a few months ago, it feels like at this point, and the town turned the agenda item down. We then changed the agenda item to remove the sidewalk and curbing work that was going to be done at Mill Street and River Street. Reduced the amount of the item down to $173,000, which represents just the right-of-way work for the tip bridge work and the tip downtown work. We asked Greg to please come here so that questions could be addressed with the engineers directly. And we also asked him to submit a summary of work to date, scope for going forward, and that's been included in your packets.
Thank you. Sir, welcome.
Thank you. So I can give you just a brief rundown of what's going on. This is related to two tip projects that are currently ongoing within the town. We have the downtown project around Hook Street, Central, Hamilton, and Foster Street in La Rochelle. That is being paid for, the design is being paid for by the town, as well as the right-of-way. And then construction is being paid for by Mass DOT.
And you have that contract with the town?
And we have that contract.
That's been in place since 2017.
Yep. The bridge project, which is another tip project that was put forward by Mass DOT to replace the existing bridge over McKinstry Brook on Mill Street, we have a contract with Mass DOT for that design, based on the condition of the bridge over the Quinnebog River. It was closed up to a few years ago. We put together some changes that allowed that bridge to get reopened, and Mass DOT agreed to also include that project as part of that McKinstry Brook project, knowing that they may need it as a detour when the other bridge was closed. So that one, all design work, all construction is being done, funded by Mass DOT, except for the right-of-way requirements. And then they had also agreed to pave Mill Street between the bridges and the two outside intersections. So between the Quinnebog and Main Street, in between McKinstry Brook and River Street. The requirements for doing that on River Street was just that the town build the 3 wheelchair ramps on the other side of River Street that are not adjacent to the bridge. So, the memo I sent you kind of laid out the schedule. Both of these projects are on the same state tip, which is the 2025 tip. The bridge project, I believe at the moment, is scheduled to be advertised in December of '24. The downtown project, I believe, in February or March of 2025. Those dates fluctuate depending on other projects and how our progress proceeds.
Right, and should we be ready before then? We
Yes.
could even be advertised before then.
Yes, you're not gonna move, so the earliest either of these projects could be advertised would be October 24. And the latest they can be advertised is September of 25. So this, it goes by the federal fiscal year, not the municipal fiscal.
Okay.
So, moving on to right-of-way. So, one of the reasons we put forward this amendment was to try and help streamline the process. Just given all the turnover at the town hall and trying to kind of assist everybody, DPW, planning, town manager's office. There's a lot of work that goes into the right-of-way process. There's obviously title exams, stakeholder interviews, putting bids out for appraisals, review appraisals, coordinating between them, DOT, us. And it just kind of, we've done this in the past, where it just kind of helps streamline that process. It makes Mass DOT a little more comfortable with the process and how everybody kind of works together. So we've kind of put that forward. The idea would be that we would get 3 bids. We send it out to various appraisers that we know work on these types of jobs, have a good working relationship with Mass DOT and other towns, and kind of get those bids, go with the lowest bidder. And yeah, so we put in an allowance based on other projects that we've worked on recently in other towns that we've seen with similar projects. And then, that allowance is just so that we don't have to come back, we wouldn't have to come back for, if they come $500 over the allowance or something like that, or, and then we can, it's obviously an upset limit. If it comes down, if we get a lower bid, that money doesn't have to get used. And again, it's really a case of trying to streamline the process. The right-of-way needs to be done, generally speaking, they like it to be done, say, 3 months, give or take, minimum of 3 months before advertising. Sooner the better, but there's also the point where we need to kind of time the appraisals with the advertising dates so they don't expire. And so you have to redo it.
And/or property.
And/or,
Property's changing hands.
yes. The title exams were being handled by town council. I think they should be already be done,
I think they are.
at least for the downtown project. I'm not sure about the bridge project yet. And so that's just kind of the baseline. The first thing that needs to get done, and all the dates that were given there are based on the most recent project schedules. We submit monthly schedules to Mass DOT to kind of demonstrate our, where the project is, so they can kind of schedule them and slot them. So, we need to get the title research, get the right-of-way approved. We haven't gotten the right-of-way approved yet because we're waiting for both on the downtown project, because we're waiting for the title research as well as the lease agreement between the town and the state for the rail trail. All that has to be incorporated into this before Mass DOT can approve the right-of-way. So kind of and again, in the name of trying to streamline things and not have to keep going back and forth with submission, have it rejected and say, wait, whenever, wait for the town. So the project's kind of been on hold for a little bit while we, dealt with 76 Central, then the rail trail. Now I think those two issues are almost wrapped up. So then we should be able to kind of pull those all together and try and get the right of way for the downtown project approved so we can move forward, begin have more property owner interviews, hire the appraisers. The appraisers can then start going. They have their own interviews. There's certified letters that have to go out. They come from the town. We can provide documents. Mass DOT will provide samples. And then I'm sure town council, I know, has done several of these jobs, so I know she has her own samples that she probably uses. And it's really, again, kind of all in the name of just trying to streamline the process. The appraisals generally take 3 months, give or take. The more lead time you give them, the better price you will get, rather than, because then they can kind of schedule it rather than putting it out to bid in the spring, saying, we need this in 3 months, or 2 months, or whatever. Every appraiser has different things they want, so, we know what certain ones want, how they do things, which again helps streamline the process. And that is kind of the general overview. Once we get the appraisals, there's a whole diary that has to be maintained for every property, for everyone that talks to the property. So the town needs to have kind of like one person that's named a kind of, that spearheads all this, just because they need to be able to keep track of who's talking to whom, because all that gets submitted to federal highway to be approved in order for the money to get issued for construction. So in the nutshell, so all of this kind of falls on the town for the downtown project. For the bridge project, Mass DOT is paying for the right-of-way plans, just not the right-of-way acquisitions. So it's, and then we kind of bump, since there is no existing town contract for the bridge, because it's all through the state, we kind of added this together to try and get a bulk price from the appraisers. So we'll put them all, the idea was to put both of them up together to series of appraisers and get those back. You need 2 appraisals for every property. You need an appraisal and then a review appraisal. Some appraisers only do one type, some do both. Obviously, if you have one that does both, it's easier, streamlines the process. So
Okay.
that's the general
Alright.
overview.
Councilor Laws, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
I'm just joking.
Okay. All right.
Do we have to get some water for you?
Yeah, Councilor Shenyer, then Councilor
I
Marqueta.
have multiple questions. The acquisition of the land for the bridge projects, right-of-ways, how come the state doesn't do this? They have their own land acquisition and right-of-way people that go out. Are they gonna come on top of you and do this? Then if they're paying for everything, how come they're not doing this part of the job for the bridges?
So the bridge, these are both bridges are owned by the town. So this is part of a kind of a push for the state. The state is kind of making a push statewide to target bridges that are functionally either obsolete or in poor condition. So they're trying to bring up the overall rating of the state's bridges. So they identified McKinstry Brook as one that needed to be replaced. So that's kind of how it started. And then they agreed to pay for normally everything involved in that bridge, other than, if you went through the tip process, normally that would be a town design, town right-of-way, everything the town would pay for except for construction. They're through this, they're using their own money from a different pot of money to kind of focus on these town bridges that are falling into disrepair.
Okay. What's the possibility of getting the additional funding to pay from Mill Street, from bridge to bridge?
From if not, and the reason I say that is and we actually looked into doing some other work, or Mass DOT actually wanted to put in some work at the intersection, the signalized intersection of Main Street, and what it does is it opens a lot more right of way, and also it opens more. It's just a longer process, more groups review it from Mass DOT. The bridge funds are generally meant just to target the bridges with some extraneous stuff to tie things in. If we start paving in between, then they're gonna have to do sidewalks or bike lanes, and it opens a bigger can of worms than Mass DOT is willing to go.
The reason I question that is because of the bike trail that's being developed. Mill Street is the right-of-way, well, not a right-of-way, but is the route for the bike trail. So I just felt, it's something maybe the town can look into to do. So we don't have to do sidewalks, grind and pave, you know what I'm saying?
There may be, there may be an option. So I guess the option in that case is you can ask to have items put in as not participating.
Okay.
What I will say is that then you have to have the money at that time, and you also have to accept whatever price Mass DOT gets. Mass DOT costs for paving are generally higher than a town's because they require more oversight.
All right. Downtown project. VHB's been involved with the Hook Street and all that. How did Boston Gas put a pit in that shouldn't have been there, from my understanding? How'd that happen? Who watched that?
That was National Grid Gas or whatever they sent us plans to add into our plans. The gas pit wasn't in it. When we told the people that we were coordinating with, they said they had no idea, they didn't know anything about it. And they found out about it at the same time we did. When we asked them, can you put it, did you get a permit for it? They said, well, yeah, we got a permit for the whole gas installation. They didn't necessarily say that they were going to put a pit into it, or that they were including a pit in it. That's not something that was never shown on our plans. That was never shown on any plan that National Grid ever gave us. And we just got their plans.
It also wasn't in their road permit.
So why were they allowed to continue if it wasn't in the plan?
It was in before we.
I watched it for weeks being developed, being dug, being put in.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Could I,
Ms. Lee, go ahead. Yeah.
could I jump in?
Go ahead, Ms. Lee.
Okay, so National Grid doesn't have to go through any of us except for the road permit, right? And so it's sort of its own project. It's not overseen by the TIP. It's not overseen by the DPW. So they are their own. We happen to be out there doing on-site inspections for I was with Joe Cohn talking about the landscape architecture for the depot. We asked them if we could see their plans when we saw that the vault was going in a place where they were crossing over. And that's when we started to question. It was sort of serendipity that we stumbled upon it. But I don't think otherwise it would have been the town's purview to be there.
Due to the overlap of the time frame of all this stuff taking place, I didn't look into seeing about the permit for it until after the fact. Once it was already in, once it became an issue, we pulled the Grid's road permits and looked at the what they had pulled for permits for the gas in that entire neighborhood. And all of the drawings were specifically just gas mains or services from the street or in the street. And that regulator pit was not on any of them.
One final question. I'm sure you are aware of the Main Street paving project that you guys engineered that. Some of us are unhappy with the service that we got from the company as far as oversight for that particular road project, even with the repair that was done to it. What kind of assurance can you give me that this isn't going to happen with the downtown project and the bridge project? How
So we don't do the on-site inspection.
okay,
Mass DOT does all the inspection for both, they'll do both, they'll do the on-site inspection for both. So they have a full-time resident engineer.
okay.
They'll have I don't know, it could be the same, it could be the same resident engineer, it could be different ones. It's most likely to be different ones, because one will be bridge related and one will be roadway related. They have every project receives a resident engineer that has an office somewhere in the general vicinity of the project. Contractor is required to rent them one and provide them one. And then there's also an area engineer who's responsible for, a series of projects, and they're responsible for that type of stuff and that coordination. So our responsibilities on the DOT jobs are shop drawing review, generally final signal inspections, punch lists, and then if we're asked by the town to attend anything.
So you're gonna do the design and they're gonna do the oversight
Mhm.
for both projects? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. You go ahead, Ms. D.
When I was town administrator in Charlemont, we did a project at that time, and they literally rented an apartment for the person within hundreds of feet of the main downtown, and they were there the entirety of the project.
Thank you. Counselor Lazo, was this on? the
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I was not chairman at the time, and I've since become the chairman, but I think that the council can agree that we've had some frustrating moments with the Central Street parking lot, with the Main Street project, and it seems like the common denominator that seems to be putting things properly is our DPW head, was a little bit of oversight and a little bit of accountability to the gas company and to various other people that come to town. To design something is to know what's underneath the ground when you do a project like this. It should have been, I think it should have been all together. And I'm gonna be quite honest, the reason why I voted no for VHB the first time was I didn't want anybody that had anything to do with Southbridge's mistakes on the job. In talking to Rich and moving forward, I hope that our oversight is better so we can move forward with it. You have to understand our frustration. I'm not mad about it, I'm just like, in my business, I do groundwork. Listen, you get to mess the job up one time, you're not on my job ever again. So for myself, I was very frustrated. I voted no. I am gonna change my vote because our DPW director seems to have a good grip on what's going on as far as the coordination, the oversight, and eyes on the job. I know they did a patch pave job on our Main Street. I'm not happy with it, but Rich was out there, 1 o'clock in the morning, measuring, making sure things were proper. That's something we never had before, and that's on us. So moving forward, I'm gonna vote to give you another shot. Let's get together. I think we got the right guy at the helm. He's actually a road guy, he understands infrastructure. And I think we need to get these projects done. I'm not interested in drawing down, putting more weight on anybody else that they don't get their job done. I would rather be a council that supports you, supports Peg, our DPW director. You're the ones that are supposed to be eyes and ears for us. That's why we vote the money. So going forward, I think we're gonna get better at what we do, but I hope everybody else is on board down in the ranks that are on the boots on the ground that feel the same way about it. Because Main Street was, our citizens have to drive a patch paved Main Street, think about that. And, for whatever reason, might be on our side, But moving forward, I'm willing to start and just keep moving forward. Let's get this thing done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Marquet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I realize that this project has to get done, and my problem is also with VHB. VHB was in charge of the design of the Main Street project, and then to streamline it, we gave them the oversight of the Main Street project. I think over $200,000 to provide oversight. The Main Street was good, I want to say close to $5 million, somewhere around there. And if you look at Main Street, that doesn't look like a $5 million road project to me. It's all patched. There are a lot of potholes right off the beginning. There are a lot of problems when they did the paving of the road, and the HBU was being paid to provide oversight. Now, when some of these problems came to light, to streamline it, VHB was given the job of putting together a punch list. And so the punch list was presented, and then she came back, and they did not even fulfill that punch list. There are a lot of things that they did not do, even though they had a punch list. So I know that this TIP project needs to be done. My problem is just with VHB. They are going to be, again, this is just to provide oversight on something. I think it's something that we, for that kind of money, you could probably hire somebody to work for the town to do this, or hire some other engineering company, but not VHB. So that's my issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Want to go ahead, I know we spent a lot of time last meeting on this whole process, and I think there's a lot of frustration. We all got that already, and that horse has been dead for a long time. That's going to go on in our history books. It may be on one of our history books one of these days too as well. But I think that obviously, VHB is almost 3.6 million. We're talking about, but I think that at the end state, I think that's where our frustration is, from layman to the guys that work on roads. I mean, it's just a frustrating thing. You know how it goes, the perception at that point in time. I appreciate it. I know this is for the design. I got that. This is the design portion of it, so I would make that very clear to everybody.
That's what
Go
I
ahead.
just kind of want to make sure, because they're not doing oversight. You're doing design.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
This project here, they're doing oversight. They're going to hire the companies who are going to be doing the right-of-way and the assessment. And that's what that said. That's what this whole memo said. Thank you.
We all good, Mr. Town Manager?
I just want to say, I understand the frustration with Main Street. We've all been part of that Main Street project. However, you have a new town manager, a new DPW director, a level of oversight that we work closely together. We will manage that project. The whatever is still ongoing with the Main Street project, we need to look at it and see what else may need to be done that's separate than this project. We do not have the capacity in town hall right now to go out for a new RFP, delay the projects. They're embedded with Mass DOT. Rich and I will work with VHB, with PEG and everybody, and get it done and make sure it's done in a timely and right fashion.
Thank you.
So,
Hey, okay, anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Favor of. Appreciate your time coming down here today, this evening, and Ms. Dean, thanks for bringing.
Does the town council feel it's necessary to have Greg on Monday night?
I think everybody's pretty
I
much
think
here,
we're
so.
good.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
I would take that and run. We've been known to change our minds really quick.
Thank you, thanks very much.
That's what Corey's doing right now.
Thank you.
He's on
Good
the
to
bridge
see you.
crew. He's got 4 guys there watching the job.
Okay, we're gonna go on to 11. Discuss review recommendation of the town council to approve change order for $135,000 to McClear Design contract for East Main Street from K Street to the Rotary. I'm assuming also the town manager will have to sign all the documents,
And we'll have the town manager to sign all of the
but I'll take care of all that. I'll send an email to Gail and town manager tomorrow, or tonight, whatever. All right, need a motion a second?
Make a motion.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Town Manager.
I will defer to DPW or PEG on this one, because
So this is the portion of East Main Street that will be covered by the MassWorks grant. We look forward to coupling it with the already existing contract McClure has to do the East Main Street water work. The bid, we hope, will go out this winter, if you can approve the change order now for the additional design.
And this is the non-Riverside.
And it will be for both sides of the river. However, the shared path of 10 feet wide will be on the non-river side. We will also upgrade the river side to just standard ADA sidewalk.
Thank you. Anybody up here? Councilor Marquetti? I'm sorry, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I went back and reviewed the first time we ever voted on this East Main Street project. And it seems to me there's two different projects going on here. There's the Mass Works grant side of the project, and then there's the road work project, which I believe is Chapter 90 fund, I think. Maybe some other grant money. But, so, the Mass Works is just the sidewalk. That's what was said at the meeting. It's only the sidewalk. I watched the meeting today. So Mass Works grant is $700,000 plus 10% contingency and construction oversight. So my question is this change order covered under the Mass Works grant? And I might suggest, rather than, it's just a suggestion, rather than go ahead and pay this change order and hold off until we make sure the project is going to be done, because what I gathered from the meeting was that these two projects were gonna happen at the same time, gonna be coupled together. And right now, that whole project is over $4 million. So I'm just curious, I'm concerned that the project may not even happen, because that's a lot of money for a project that we originally, I don't think it was that high when we originally proposed it. It might have been, I'm just saying, I'm not sure it's going to happen at this point, And I have seen, in the past, I've seen, for example, the Ashland Avenue Bridge. We paid Ty and Bond to design that. They came back with a change order. We paid them on a change order, and it still has not been even started. So rather than pay right up front for a change order, I would suggest we hold off till we make sure that the project is gonna get started before we pay any more money on it. That's my only suggestion on that. So, I guess the one question I have is this going to be covered under the Mass Works grant?
Christine?
The portion that you're being presented tonight is covered completely under the Mass Works grant. And so it was a pedestrian safety and sidewalk project, I think was sort of the title or the broad scope. And that includes, decreasing the width of the road, and therefore it then, becomes a road project also. And I guess, interesting discussion point. I might argue that I can't speak for DPW funding for the East Main Street water project, which you're calling road project, and whether the funds are ready and committed. If you wanted to rethink it all together, we could ask McClure to just do this portion, and we could just bid this portion to ensure that we complete the MassWorks grant within the funding time, if we're holding on the water project for any reason.
So, if I could just one more point here.
Sure.
Again, I reviewed the meeting when we voted on this, and the Mass Works portion of this project does not go that way, according to that, what I was listening to. It goes from K Street away from the Rotary, and that's what Mr. Russell said at that meeting. So this part is not part of the Mass Work grant, and part of the East Main Street project, or is it part of the Mass Works grant, which he said at that meeting was not going towards the Rotary? So I'm a little confused by that. Which part is?
Good question. Christine?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would have to watch what he's referencing, but as far as I've always understood it, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, the East Main Street water project goes from K Street towards the Big Y. The East Main Street pedestrian safety goes from K Street to the Rotary.
Well, it's the November 29th, 2022 meeting.
They had that when we were discussing about some other items that were happening at the same
Right,
time,
well,
the
he's talking
gates.
about the
Yep.
whole
And then the
project.
guardrails.
And
I
from what
got
I
you.
understood, the Mass Works grant was covering the sidewalk
the same thing?
going towards Big Y. And the sidewalks going towards the rotary were not part of the Mass Works grant. That's what I got on this discussion that we had, that was had that night. I was at the meeting. And
What meeting date was that? You said November?
November 29th, 2022.
Yeah, it was just, okay, thank you.
No, no problem.
All right, you wanna talk on what, Council Marquetti?
On
Cause I
the,
know I got Scott Laws, or Council Laws.
wait, let him go.
Go ahead.
Just a
Yeah,
quick
Yep,
clarification. The sidewalk that we're building is on the opposite side of the river, correct?
correct.
There is no sidewalk there now.
Right.
There is none.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Senior?
Hey, well, Rich, if I understood it right over the past couple of years, is that the water portion of the project is being paid for out of the water fund. The sewer project, part of that was gonna be done while the road is open, and that was gonna be done by the wastewater sewer plant, the sewer enterprise fund. And then that we were gonna be responsible for the paving. Am I correct on how that is working?
If my memory serves me, I believe you are correct.
So it's not, it could be a $4 million project, but it's a $4 million project entailing the water, the sewer, Boston Gas probably going in and do their kind of stuff. So it's a reconstruction of the road. In our portion, it would probably be the paving, in which would be, if I understood it correctly, multiple accounts, chapter 90, and hopefully some grant money and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's all town money, but it's gonna be coming from the enterprise funds and chapter 90 funds. Okay, thank you.
Was there ARPA money in there too?
I don't recall.
There was a request for
I'm pretty sure
something
there was
like
a
that.
breakdown. We do have a breakdown someplace of the overall project costs that list out.
Right.
I'd have to look at the ARPA
So-
list. This was a while ago.
This mass grant
It was.
is a result of, change order is a result of council's concern about coming off the rail trail and having to cross the road, going into the rotary, crossing the road, and then going up to Main Street again. So this add-on, if you wanna call it, redesign of the roadway now is because of the concerns that we have with the pedestrians walking and being safe coming off the trail. Am I correct?
Almost.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Christine.
I feel good, almost.
So VHB was hired by Wynn Corporations to do a conceptual design for the MassWorks application.
Right.
They came to us and asked, will you apply for this MassWorks grant for pedestrian and safety improvements? At that time, the shared path was on the riverside, and it's supposed to go to the Rotary. Then, after hearing the town council's concerns, we asked McClure, was it realistic to shift the shared path to the non-river side of the street? And so we were going ahead with this change order to add the MassWorks grant as part of the East Main Street overall project. We just shifted which side of the street we were moving the path
All right.
to in response to the town council's
Right.
concerns.
Thank you.
All set then?
Yep.
Council, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Number 12 now is discuss, recommend to approve change order to Guardian's contract for $4,375 using Town Council Reserve account number 001132-578100 and an extension to the contract to October 20th of 2023 after discovering that the softball light poles are currently not grounded.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request came in from Ms. Dean, who's helping with the lighting project down at the, of the many projects that she's assisting us with. The lighting project for the Henry Street McMahon Field. As you know, opera monies were being used for the replacement of lights along with the softball association contributing a portion of those lights during the phase, and they found an issue with the grounding of those lights that need a change order immediately, pretty much, otherwise it's a safety hazard. So when Ms. Dean brought it to us, we were looking at where we're gonna get this money for this. I put it in and requested it through the town council reserve because that was the easiest place to, at least to get it to the table. You know, if we find other avenues, maybe some more opera money, if you wish to go to the opera money, we could talk about doing that. But it's on the floor that this does have to be done. It's unforeseen. Nobody would have seen or known in the initial bids whether there was an issue with grounding. So we respectfully ask that you support this.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Council
Town manager, this has to be done regardless whether they put the lights on or not. 'Cause-
Correct.
Right, because it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is something that we can just jump in here. We can, at the next ARPA meeting, we can take a look at that if we want to pay the reserve back through ARPA funds for that. Or, you know, we can put it on there. It's up to, we actually have a quorum of the ARPA committee in here. Actually, all of the ARPA committees in here. Councilor Marquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Didn't the softball association contribute like 30% of this project?
They did, and we discussed it, and we think it really is our town property, and we should take responsibility for a grounded issue that was improperly installed to begin with. So therefore, it's not fair for us to go back to the softball association to fix a problem that is no fault of theirs, so.
Well, the whole park is town.
It's town property, right, and they're being gracious enough to assist us in paying for lights. We could say no and just keep the lights, but they are giving money to this project, and so it is a joint project. I think it behooves us to take care of a safety issue that was unanticipated.
You're all set? Ms. Dean?
George Whiting from Guardian has said he's happy to answer any questions by phone if we have any right now. He said you can't permit the project until
Correct.
you ground it. He can keep working on some things if you approve it tonight, which would be good. And then with regards to funding, I think they did offer a large portion of their existing savings.
They did, and I've got it written down on the ARPA spreadsheet of how much they contributed to, so, all right. Any other discussion on this one? Okay,
No, I'm sorry.
okay. The only question I have is, council reserve, we allocated $80,000
Right.
for this fiscal year. So subtract $4,375 from the 80, it should be $75,625.
No,
Am I
I know
missing
you said
something?
that, asked me that earlier. That's what's remaining right now. So there was some 1,100 already came out for some reason. Either it's in the queue for another transfer that we have on another one. So she's saying that's what's left for
Okay.
when
got it.
So
I
this
understand.
is for account, when we give you this sheet, that's what the existing balance is, not what it would remain afterwards.
I know, I think that was different with under Karen. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Okay, good to go.
I don't remember doing a council reserve this year.
I may have one in another agenda item, that's
Oh,
why, so.
okay.
I think there may be coming up.
All
Maybe
right.
not in my meeting though. All right, any other, all in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much for
That was
taking these
over.
agenda items earlier.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
Councilor Marquetti, I can't find that meeting you referenced, 11/29/2022, you said? Yeah. If you look under the subcommittee on the town council, there's no meeting for the 29th that I can find.
I think it was a DPW Subcommittee.
Yeah, I don't find it.
All right, agenda item number
I'm sorry,
4. Review, discuss the bid from MPC Service Incorporated to provide HVAC system and control maintenance for various town buildings. Entertain a motion, the town council recommend awarding the contract to MPC Services. Now, I'll put in there, and town manager, sign all related documents.
So moved.
Thank you.
Did he say that? That's it. So,
I saw second.
so at a previous meeting.
You guys have that, right?
At an early meeting, when this first came up before I became town manager, there was a lot of discussion with Rich and about the contract and bidding. Rich went back out and confirmed what buildings. The question was about Airport Diner, and so all the buildings are accounted for. I did follow up with Rich today. We had that early conversation about what the dates would be, if it would be from July 1st, but they haven't provided any services. So upon execution of the agreement, if it's approved at council, it would go from that date for the year. So we confirm the Airport Diner is not on there, and those are the rest of the buildings.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure when it goes to the town council that this is the updated bid list, so.
Yeah, I'll make sure it
Just
is.
got that.
So what happened was when I sent you that bid list, Rich had sent me the original, the correct one. Unfortunately, it was my error, because when I was looking through and requesting a copy of the contract through the previous documents, I did find in the date for the last DPW meeting was the whole packet, but it did include the airport diner. So that was my oversight. I looked at it real quick, but Rich had submitted the correct one to me. So that's where we're at on that, so.
Very well. Council Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for you. We voted on this on August 21st town council meeting, same exact language, same document, with the airport language in there, or total in there. So shouldn't we rescind this? Rescind that vote before voting on this?
We never went to council.
Yes, we voted on it, August 21st town council meeting.
My understanding was it did not go to, it was gonna be on the agenda, but I don't, do you have the minutes, the actual minutes for that meeting?
That we removed it that day.
It was removed from this agenda.
It was removed,
Yeah.
It was on the agenda.
It was on the
But we-
agenda.
Joe
but it
Dow,
got
Joe
removed.
Dow was the reason why they got rid of it.
It was postponed
Yeah.
until we got
Yeah, they postponed or to another meeting, because it was, Joe had a lot of questions on this. This was one of the issues he was pretty hard on, and I think identifying what the services were gonna cover,
Okay,
because I think the meeting didn't have what the services were.
Correct.
Something was missing, and this piece here, with the buildings and what's gonna go on, shows actually what we're gonna get for what we're paying.
would I understand correctly?
If there's anything that we find that, and I can try to look for it too,
No,
just
I-
take a look. It's no big deal.
Totally right.
Okay, all right. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? 3-0. Number 5, review, discuss proposal to improve pave section of Gulfwood Road beginning at its intersection with Torrey Road heading northeast to its terminus. Did I say that right? Okay, thank you. At the swamp. Funding through Chapter 90 with an estimated project cost of $650,845. Proposed work to be completed by Patrick Construction, utilizing price quantities extended from prior years. Contract work to complete before cold weather. Entertain a motion to council for approval.
So moved. Second.
Well, Town Manager?
Yeah, I will defer the conversation to Rich. We all know that Gulfwood Road needs some immediate repairs. And a lot of concerns with safety up in that area. I will say that Rich does put together a very detailed agenda item, because this was cut down by about 20 more words. So I think pretty much he's given us a scope of what work they're gonna do and when they can complete it, and it is desperately needed. So I'll refer to Rich on the rest of it.
Rich?
So I submitted this to the state for Chapter 90 approval. They did give us a project number. It has been approved for funding. So at this point, it's up to us. If there's any questions about the
Go ahead,
project.
Counselor.
That's including all drainage.
So right now, we're including the cost of drainage from Al Hamlin's driveway back to the Toy Road intersection. There may be some adjustments to that, but not price adjustments up, just adjustments to what's necessary for drainage. But properly functioning drainage by use of ditching and sheet flow with lesser of a ditch than what is there currently will be the project.
I just think it's time that we complete projects and make them, instead of, piecemealing it all, we're gonna get it done, and you go up there, it's a beautiful road, and, I think this is just gonna make it that much more better and safer. I'd ridden up there just today, and I was amazed that the contractor was out there in the pouring rain, but the drainage is working on Ellis Road. It's a pleasure to see something coming to Bruce,
I will add that aside from condition, one of the reasons why I looked at doing this section of road would be to try to balance the traffic in that area coming into town. Once you pave a road such as Ellis Road, then instead of going right to come to Torrey to go to the school, people are going to be shooting straight across. There's already been some speeding concerns on the road now that the road has actually become a road. So, trying to do what we can in that nature to make a balance.
Okay. I don't know who had it. Mr. Steves.
Thank you. A couple of quick things. First off, I think this is a definite project. It's going horrible shape and has been for forever. I think we were talking about golfwood when I started on the council 9 years ago. My question is simply is, what are the bidding requirements for this? Since this is not from last year's bid, it wasn't ever included in last year's bid. I understand that you've talked to Jim Chiappi about expanding the project to include that section, because I remember you talking about it when I was still on the council. I just want to know what the requirements are.
So the legal requirements, because we're basically extending the numbers from last year's contract, so Mass DOT has accepted that, utilizing last year's numbers with the given fact that there is a cost of inflation for this year's numbers. So typically you would expect a 5 to 7% increase in what we're seeing at the moment for services rendered from year to year. So we're utilizing last year's numbers, and that leaves us within the range of guidelines that are acceptable for the state.
You also. All right. Councilor Lozey.
To my fellow councilors, I mean, we had a road study and we looked at the road study, we're doing best to worst, worst to best. I got kind of tired of it. It was kind of a breath of fresh air when Rich came into town and said, we'll just drive on the road and find out which are the worst roads. Well, Ellis, for years, has been worse, and Gulfwood comes in second. And it's in the same network. The thing with Gulfwood is, Charlton, since the water went over the road and we don't have that thoroughfare, they've been going over Denfield to Gulfwood, which is increasing the traffic. So I think this one here, next up, if we take care of this, as Rich said, you know, my big thing was, can we get it done before winter time? We don't want to be paving in cold weather. And Rich said we can button up Ellis, button up Gulfwood, and then after, what we'll do is next year, we'll get a plan of attack on the roads, so we come out first thing in the spring. So I was all energized by that, and I'm gonna be voting yes on this. That's me.
I appreciate that, and that's something that Rich and that we talked about doing it this month, by the end of the month, trying to have an idea where we're at for the pavement, and then along with the town manager as well, so I think everybody's on the same sheet of music. Councilman Marquette?
Thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, through you. I had Gulfwood Road, we were talking about Gulfwood Road for a long time. At DPW Subcommittee that came up almost every single meeting on Gulfwood Road. I know at one time though, it was said that the project was gonna cost over $1 million. So what has changed now? Between $1 million to now, we've got it down to $650.
New DPW
$1 million was all of Gulfwood, right?
That was all Gulfwood.
All of Gulfwood from,
Well, when I looked at the roadway repair segment here, just from Torrey Road to the Charlton Town line, it was about $600,000. So you're not going all the way to the Charlton line, you're just going to where the flooding is.
Correct.
That's pretty much the Charlton line.
Pretty much.
That is the Charlton line?
Well, we own 10% of that flooded area over there, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it was, and then Charlton owned like 90% of that road or something. It was some number like that when we were looking at it before with the beaver issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
thank you. Anything else? All right, all those in favor? Yes? And small present. All right, number 6, review, discuss memorandum of, oh, by the way, Rich, do you mind me taking a look at the motion itself and tweaking it just a little bit? I started writing down a motion for that, or just on this past agenda item. I'll run it by you.
You lost me on the question, so.
So on agenda item number 5, which we went through,
Yes,
I was just gonna rewrite that agenda item.
sure.
Oh, thank you. All right, review, discuss memorandum of agreement, MOA with the Mass DOT Forward Program, Grant Program to acceptance of dynamic radar speed feedback mini trailer to be utilized, maintained per the agreement by the Department of Public Works. Entertain a motion to the town council, recommend approval, town manager sign all related documents.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager?
This is one of the speed signs that says, hey, you're going this fast, speed limit this, but it'll be on a trailer, so we can, move it anywhere in town that we have. So, say Ellis Road right now, we have brand new road, speed, we can put a trailer up there,
UPS.
right? Huh?
UPS was the first one.
So, yeah, so it's just it gives us opportunity. I do believe it records data so that we look at that street, and if somebody says, we have them right now that are fixed upon signs, but this would just give us the ability to move them wherever we want without having to take the sign out and moving it and put new signs
At no cost.
at no cost.
So this project came to be, I was notified of a grant opportunity for either 2 of the permanently mounted signs or a trailer mounted. There is a section of road on North Woodstock Road, 169, approximately where the cemetery is, that there was a traffic study that was done for dangerous speed zones. So because it was such a small area, it didn't necessarily qualify for the permanent mounted signs, but it did give us the opening to put it for the trailer, so there's no cost. There are a couple of guidelines for it as far as our maintenance goes. We're required to put it on that particular road for 2 weeks per year. Initially, when we get the unit, we're supposed to put it out there for X amount of days with the display turned off so that it just collects data from people that are going by to see what the difference is in the speeding between not actually seeing the speed and then go out and turn the speed feedback on, and it'll collect the data from once that. And so that will be collected either by myself or from somebody from my department. We'll have to turn that information into the state, and that's basically our payment for the unit. So then we can use it wherever we want.
So if you go south on 169 just a little bit, right over right when you start going into the area, you can always put it right there as well. Right by my flagpole where they had a drag race one night about 2 in the morning. So
A Jersey barrier coming out of the road.
would work as well. Right? So did tax and pipes. All right, anything else?
Question about this, because the police have had one of these kinds of standard signs up on Lebanon Hill off and on for some time now, and half the time it doesn't work. So how are we gonna guarantee that this thing actually works?
Well, it's gonna be brand new, so I'm hoping that.
Supposedly that was too, and it always had one of those little out of power things.
Really?
It could be the solar, it's a solar fed.
So this will be solar as well, but there are, there are maintenance programs that we can go through to have them serviced if there is an issue. I think it just depends on follow through.
Or maybe you can make the neighborhood call the town manager's office and say, hey, it's not working.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it to the police chief a couple of times. And he's gone up there and corrected it a couple of times, but he keeps not.
anything else? All's in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Number 7, review discuss quotes for the purchase of a front end loader by the DPW, replace number 33 in 1988 Caterpillar 950 loader that has been removed from the service due to safety issues caused by excessive corrosion. Entertain a motion of town council for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, if I may, as you're aware, we went to ARPA. ARPA had approved up to $275,000 because we were talking about the Caterpillar. This had come up in an earlier DPW subcommittee meeting about the replacement. The concern was whether we could actually get a machine before winter, and we were discussing the possibility that we may have to rent a machine. Rich has been able to find on the municipal bid list a vehicle that he believes is suitable for the department, that is in stock, that we would have for the winter, which would avoid any rental cost and much cheaper than the $275.
And-
So I'll refer
And
to-
before we go on, real quick, my apologies, I shouldn't even made this a motion. ARPA's already set aside $275,000 for funding of a front loader. And we asked Mr. Benoit to provide us some quotes on that to see how much it was gonna cost and what I was gonna do. Instead of utilizing a DPW agenda item on the town council meeting, I was gonna do it as an ARPA item, because we did approve the funding for it.
Yeah, but you gave the money to the town, and the town has to approve it. Has to vote to buy the loader.
Right. You're right.
Council.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to have 2 motions.
Right.
Got it, all right.
I
I'll
think
put
you're
both
fine
of
where
them.
you're
Yeah,
going.
got it.
So
Anything else?
we already made the motion?
You already made the motion, you
All right.
seconded it.
Nothing else.
Any other discussion? Oh, Rich, did you have anything you wanted to?
I'll just add that, just briefly, we did go out and price out a winter lease if we couldn't find a machine. John Deere quoted us at $6,100 per month with a 5-month rental, and Caterpillar came in at $6,800. They did also quote us delivery charge of $500 each way, and we didn't get that deep into it with John Deere at that time. The machine that we have that came in low bid also is in stock at a dealership in Maine that also has a local dealership that we deal with. Is the same model machine as what we currently have in service as our primary loader, and also the same make of the rest of the loaders in town at the wastewater treatment and the airport. So I feel very confident that this will serve our needs.
Okay. Any other discussion? So it's the 194. There's nothing on top of that? No others? We're good?
Will there be some information provided at the council meeting?
Yeah, I've got the quote right here. If you actually, that'll be part of the materials as well.
I think if you look back in your packet, Gail sent us the packet under the DPW meeting to everybody, I believe.
We did not have the
We didn't
quotes
have
at
the
the time.
Oh, we didn't have the quotes.
So we
Just
just
got
have
them
the
today.
quotes.
Yeah, okay.
We will have the quotes included in the packet.
And I've got one more question for the chair, but I'll do that after the meeting. So, all right. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous for all present.
Excuse me, did you want to add the price of $194,219 into this motion?
Yeah, well, if we want to do
I
an
think that
amendment, or
was-
I plan on already putting it in
Just
there
put it
at
in.
the new motion when I put the motion together.
Very good.
All right, number 8, review, discuss fiscal year 24 treated sodium chloride road salt contract with Lead Salt with a contracted price of $94.70 per ton pursuant to the existing Oxford cooperative bid. Entertain motion to the town council for approval.
So moved. Second.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
This is just a continuation of last year's bid, I believe. The state bid, according to Rich's extensive motion, was 30 cents per ton more. So this is cheaper than the state bid. Is that correct?
We're correct.
There you go. So it's just, we cooperatively bid with multiple towns, so this is just, we're gonna use that as opposed to the state bid.
We have one more bid we can use, right? Or one more extent through 25, I believe it is. We can utilize this for, or is
For
this?
the cooperative agreement?
Yeah. I think that's when Heather was here, she did that for, because we could get a cheaper price.
Just for a question, when I looked at the documents that we got, as it was understanding it, there was one quote for $68 for some kind of salt.
That's the next one.
So that's-
Right, what's the difference?
So the one that we're talking about now is for treated salt.
Yeah?
Because of our MS4 requirements, we're not allowed to use sand. Most towns that are not allowed to use sand any longer utilize treated salt primarily for their de-icing, specifically without going through like chemical treatment. Because regular rock salt, the white untreated salt, the effective temperature of that material is like 24 degrees or 22 degrees. After that, it will freeze. So if the surface temperature reaches below a certain degree, it will refreeze. The effective temperature of treated salt, which is usually treated with either calcium or magnesium chloride, the effective use temperature of that is down to like, I think 4 degrees surface temperature. So we use that in essence to melt the ice as opposed to putting a abrasive on it.
So there is,
Yes.
thank you.
So the regular salt we can use if it's a warm storm. So we consider we're saving some money if we're not gonna have ultra freezing temperatures. So we stock both.
Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. All right, number 9, review, discuss fiscal year 24 untreated road salt contract to Eastern Salt Company at $68 per ton pursuant to the state bid list. Entertain a motion to the town council for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager?
Nothing further than what you just explained, it's just the state bid.
Very well. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous for all present. Motion to adjourn?
Oh, one question maybe.
Yep.
Can we add an agenda item? We're
Not
not-
on the agenda.
Well, somebody put this thing on here saying, what's the end?
Just to make so we can get like an update on the next either meeting or to Jack to talk about the River Street wall after the bridge. And I kind of would like an update about the Main Street project paving, repaving, if that's acceptable to the town as it has been presented, or are we going to go and do something with the structures that are falling into the ground? I just look at this as, we keep saying, well, we'll get it, we'll get it, we'll get it, and if you could
No,
come
yeah,
and put it
okay.
there. That's,
Got it, I wrote it down, I'll put it on there, absolutely easy. Thank you.
Just not for next week, if that's.
no, I mean, just the next time we meet,
Tomorrow.
or
All right.
even if you bring it to a full council instead of coming to subcommittee, at least we get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And it can't be in 2 weeks, because I'll be in Florida.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn,
And he's on vacation.
all those in favor?